Hey, everybody. Welcome. We're kicking off this week, Monday, on this channel, Flawed Man of God. My name is Stuart Davis. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity, talk about different topics, current events, all sorts of things, and the perspectives, both within the church as Christians and without. Offering my perspective. I've been a Christian all my life, 39 years, non denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination, just in the word daily, trying to do a better job each day in. And sometimes I'll do it right, oftentimes I'll do it wrong, but in either case, we will discuss it. So if you are somebody who is interested in Christianity, learning more, you're feeling just kind of that tug at the back of your mind. Maybe you are curious that there is something more to your existence than just this time you have on Earth. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. Hopefully, I can offer you some sorts of insights, a glimpse into what Christianity is all about, and you can use this as a very amateur primer to hopefully springboard you into a relationship with Christ. Or if you are already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian topics and discussions, welcome as well. We do have the chat open. We run it very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. So wherever you land on what I just talked about, one side, the other side, or somewhere in between, the chat's open, and it's a good group of folks who are often, kind of filing in and out. A regular crew for the most part, and we'd love to hear what you have to say on anything we're talking about or whatever strikes your fancy. Um, in regards to Christianity, we are open and willing to hear what kind of experience, insights, or whatever you have to share. I encourage you to be part of the chat. If you want to just listen, that's fine too. But again, the chat makes things on this show better because look, I'm just a host, I'm just a mouthpiece, and that's what I'm here to do, is kind of facilitate the discussion and guide it, and then because I run it, I'll offer my opinions as whenever I feel like it. So um anyways, with that said, welcome guys. Alias first, how's it going? Porcupine, how's it going? um Fridays has been a difficult time getting getting a chill stream to happen. And last Friday was no exception. And it kind of led me into what I'm going to talk about tonight, which is and get into, which is, loss, grief, and everything. And not so much the experience of it, but when you have people around you that are going through it. We actually, let's say we actually, there was a very good sermon this weekend from my pastor who was talking about this because the holidays in general, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, when they're all hitting around the same time, we celebrate this often as a time to get together with family. And look, let's face it, not all of our family is with us right now. Not all of our family is living, right? And it's harder to notice that as much when you're a kid, but now that we're adults and we see who is at these gatherings that isn't anymore, it makes things more difficult. And the closer they are into your life, uh, the more difficult it makes it. So he was talking about that. They called it an empty chair sermon. He had a table of full of empty chairs, though, so it made it seem a little bit more significant. But I think the message that he conveyed was pretty good, which was talking to people about it, both people who are experiencing it and people who are wanting to know, what do you do? What do you do in those aspects? And really, um, what we run into is we don't know what to say, or we try to say something. You have something in your brain, or you just want to try to just force, and you can't. You just want to force somebody to understand. I feel so bad for you, but at the same time, I either don't understand what you're going through, or I have my own um, loss that I deal with, but I don't want to cheapen the way you feel by trying to tell you I'm right there with you. And it's a difficult thing to do. And we had our old pastor, our old retired pastor, who was great. Oftentimes said, or he said he did one because we were talking about Job, and when we get to Job in the readings, it's going to be very clear. But we were talking about Job and what he had experienced. And what my pastor said was, sometimes it's better not to say anything. Sometimes it's better just to be there for him. And I think and it's the same. Then you feel like you're not doing anything. Does it help? Does it not? It's different because it's different from different people. We're all going to experience things differently. So, what leading up to this, I know a lot of people who are going through a lot of loss right now of loved ones, close friends, and family, and it has been this past year and a half where it has just been, just running into it. I mentioned that we had lost a in integral, I want to say, but kind of the identity of our church could have been summed up in our elder, Mr. Kirby, who died in the spring, and that hurt. And right after, and a few months ago, or a couple months ago, we lost a sweet lady who was, when you those of you who go to church regularly or are involved in church, y'all know what I'm talking about. And maybe those of you who don't can think about somebody maybe you've run into more of work in work, or maybe you are blessed enough to have somebody like this in your family. It's just a good-natured, honest, sweet, but firm in her convictions lady, who was not that. See my cat in the background. Firm in her convictions, uh, mother and wife, and she had been battling several different things throughout her life, and then finally she succumbed to one of those battles, and that hurt because we're a small church. Loss hits us a little bit more. It's a little bit more impactful when you're a small church because it's a small community. One loss is a greater percentage. We're closer, tighter knit. This is my feeling. I'll stick to it too if somebody if challenged on it, but I think that's really how it is. And these are both people who are um, folks that people gravitate around, or folks that people greatly respect, and you lose two of them. I know people in my Sunday school group who have buried a multitude of people who are close to them. We were talking about in Sunday school this Sunday. We were talking about fathers, and I was looking around and counting the amount of people near us or in our Sunday school group, and we're mid 30s to mid 40s. That's the age group we're in our Sunday school, and it felt like half of the people there had lost their dads. That's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to deal with, and you've got to struggle through it. Now, um, a family that I don't know well, but I grew up around them and I know of them. And I have memories of being at their house when I was a young kid and hanging out uh with their kids. Two of them, two of the kids who are around my age have passed away. One of them a couple of last month. How do you deal with the loss of a kid? How do you deal with multiple losses of the kids? And then um, I'm not going to get into things too much. I really wanted to do a stream, and those of you who were listening who read what I wrote in the Discord, I had a lot of things to say about Friday when I got word that my cousin had passed away. That I wanted to get out, but number one, a lot of it's family related, and it doesn't need to be out here on the internet for other people for other people to hear. That's more private. And number two, the the subject of the loss, my cousin, was a very quiet person and very necessarily private, but he didn't like a lot of attention. So I'm not going to mention his name. I'm not going to get into the circumstances surrounding um, why he died. But it was we will just say things were untimely, and it is sad. But who survives that? His dad. His dad lost one of his other sons um, back in 2018. That cousin of mine, was probably the cousin I'm closest to. He was 29 at the time. My other cousin, very early 30s. He's had to endure that. He has had to endure that. He has one son left. His ex-wife has no kids left. Where do you go with that? That is an absolute nightmare for me. Who took my kids to see both my kids to see Santa Claus uh, today, and was spending lots of time with them. You think the idea that they could both be gone in my lifetime, I don't want it to happen. Losing one would be an unbelievable tragedy. Losing two would be, I don't know how you deal with it. When I went overseas, my dad and my mom had to deal with the fact that both me and my brother were both over in Iraq at the same time, at the same base. So if something happened, if something happened, both of their eggs were in one basket that's in the middle of a war zone, right? And I can understand the fear and the stress. I can't I can't put into words how it could possibly be to lose one. And I see two of those pop up. Brian, that's probably my biggest fear. Couldn't imagine losing a kid. Mine's way up there. I have a number one that trumps it, but it's a number two. And the reason that they're number one, because it involves more than just my family and my kids. Porcupine, right? I can't even fathom losing my boys and my daughter. You don't. Most of the folks that I'm thinking about, though, this is why it happens this close to Christmas. This is a time to be happy, right? That's what you're going to see a lot from me. I think Advent is a time for great celebration. It is marking the celebration of the arrival of our Lord and Savior and what he's going to do for us. Even though the conditions are beyond words, the conditions that are going to have to be met, the fulfillment of prophecy, we don't know exactly what that means, but the sacrifice that he is going to have to do is unprecedented. As unprecedented as it is horrific, the experience that he is going to have to go through. But that's a time for Easter. That is when you reflect on that, the sacrifice. What we would reflect on at Christmas is a baby, the birth of a child given to us and sent to us by God, who is God. In simple, humble beginnings, who will grow up to be great and perform great, born great, but will perform miracles and give us so many things, tangible guidance on how to walk a path closer to God. Like I said, it's a time of celebration. But yet at the same time, tragedies happen. My grandmother died on Christmas Eve before I was even born. My dad was still very young when that happened. I never got to meet her. But every Christmas Eve, we visit her grave and leave a wreath or something for her. Tragedy happens all throughout Advent. Pearl Harbor happened during that. I mean, you can go back and find out. I mean, it just because we're celebrating this doesn't mean that we're free from the realities of life, which is that there is death around us and the fact that we have to press on. Lauren, I was referencing you and your husband earlier when I was talking about people I know who have endured an incredible amount of loss. Not just this year, but just in recent years. And Lauren, it's a time to be happy. And in the past years, I've always been super happy and joyful at Christmas time. But this year, it's really hard to be happy and joyful. Exactly. And my heart goes out to you. I've still got my parents. My wife still has her parents, and my kids get to grow up around them right now with grandparents, which is something I actually did not get the chance to do. Both of my grandparents on my dad's side had died before I was born. On my mom's side, my grandfather died when I was young, and he wasn't a nice guy. And my grandmother, it was difficult for me to be around her. So it doesn't hit me the same way, but because I missed out kind of on that experience, I am so happy to see that my kids are getting that. But Lauren, we've been thinking about you and praying for you guys that and the memory never goes away. And especially I know things are very fresh for you guys at the moment. But I hope that there is hopefully there is room for happy and joyful moments. And if you guys need anything, we by all means reach out to us because we'll do whatever we can to help facilitate that. You guys are great. I'm glad to have you guys. Glad to have you guys in our life group. It's awesome. But that's that represents things, the loss and grief. And what do we do? What do we do when those around us are hurting? What do we do when we are hurting? How do we reconcile this? And we feel like um, Christianity has answers, and it does. But sometimes it's hard to put it out there. And when it does, it sometimes can sound cliche. How do you put it out there? I'm not a good person with this. Some people are eloquent, and I can be as well. However, I'm socially awkward where other people are not. I don't know how to reach out to somebody and be like, I know this has happened. And I know I can't solve this problem for you. I wish I could. I wish they could find some cure for grief and mourning. But it's part of the process of life, and it's one thing that we can expect to see these people and enjoy our time with them. When we do our time comes and we meet them in heaven. But it's the great unknown. It's the great unknown. Only one person has come back all the way, and he's the reason that we're watching. Here's the reason that we're celebrating. Fig, how's it going? Welcome to the program. We got a good group of viewership here. Lauren says, honestly, you don't need to say anything or fix the grief. Prayers are the best gift you can give somebody who is grieving. Yes, especially believers, especially the faithful. You're going to run into people around who don't necessarily share our faith and our belief, and some of them appreciate it, and some of them it can ring hollow with them. I don't know how to. I at that point, I really don't know where to go with it. Other than I hope you're able to cherish what time you had with them. Hopefully they were people of faith. Weeb! Sup, fellas? Been a bit. Seems some stuff happened while I was gone. We doing okay? You can check the Discord for it. I experienced a loss in the family last Friday, and I wanted to talk about it then, but I needed time to collect my thoughts and come out with a direction where I wasn't talking about things that are too personal or more personal to the family. This is where I talk about things. I have some insights and some of my own struggles, especially family related, that I don't discuss on the show specifically because while I don't mind being open with them, I don't want to put other people's business that I share with them out here. I don't feel like it's appropriate, and I think that's harmful for them. I don't think that would help them or me for that matter. So I'm trying to couch that a bit. That said, we did have a very good sermon. Lauren, if you didn't see it, hopefully you got a chance to catch it. But if you didn't get a chance, Will did a terrific sermon with the empty chair sermon this past Sunday. And because of that, I thought it was good to do a topic, especially since I'm not going to be streaming this coming Friday either. So, and Christmas is around right after that. Christmas is around the corner. So, I probably won't be, maybe I might stream. Yeah, check it out on YouTube. But Weeb, it's good to have you in here. You know, I say bye to you every evening. I say wild weeb wherever you are, just so you know. Meant to tell you that the last time you tuned in. Hopefully things are well with you. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And you sounded a bit down, man. I know it's not easy, but you will be fine in the end. It's hard to that so close to Christmas, though. Yeah, look, I've come to terms with it. I think I talk to you all the time. I've come to terms with it. It's sad, like I said, but I'm more hurting for the father left behind, right? And like you said, it's close to Christmas. The mother left behind. Um, that's it's a difficult thing, especially as a parent now, as I have been for several years. And like Brian said earlier in the show when in his chat, it's a nightmare for a parent, and to see another parent go through it. You don't wish that on your worst enemy. You don't. It's awful. And this is me not going through it. I know it's awful. I know it has to suck. I had a pastor, our previous pastor, who has cried on the pulpit talking about a suicide of an adopted daughter. That happened years before I even joined the church. It is that raw. It is that moving. It is that emotional. And you have traditions, you have celebrations, you have things that you go through, that these people are there with you, and then all of a sudden they aren't anymore. And then you reminisce on the good on good times that you had and good memories, and sometimes and it's bittersweet, even if you are in the headspace where you appreciate the time that you got with them. And one of the things that somebody in our Sunday school said it's important that especially if you knew the person who was who was gone well, making sure that the people left behind, know that you haven't forgotten. Don't be afraid to discuss them. Don't be afraid to bring up how something you appreciated about them or a memory about them. They want to remember. They want to know that the people that they miss are being remembered by other people. Fig says losing family members really sucks because since I experienced that earlier this year. Yeah. Hard on my mom right now. This is the second Christmas that she'll be without her mom. That's 70 years of time with somebody and they're not around anymore. But they want people, but going back, it's important not to just, you don't want to be so afraid to talk about somebody that you end up not talking about them at all. Nobody wants that. The person who is gone, the people who are mourning, that everybody, and you yourself, you don't want to unperson them. You want that memory to be there. Because good times and good memories are meant to be kept and shared and relived. You want that. You don't want to get rid of it just because somebody's gone. And the people closest to them, they want that. So maybe that's an answer right there. They say funerals are for the living, not the dead. I agree. I agree with that. How I would go, I don't know. I know I don't want a funeral procession. I don't want a big deal made. I don't. I mean, I want people to get together and hang out and remember good time and remember what they liked about me. And talk about what they didn't like about me because I know I can be a jackass. I don't know, folks. I think the fact that so often we don't know what to say is because, like Lauren said, sometimes that you're not really meant to say anything. And number two, that grief is something that we have to work out in our own heads, in our own souls. And there's advice and there is friendship that can help us get through it. But ultimately, it's on us to figure out how we move on. And it's going to be different for different people. But one of the things I hate seeing is when people are stuck in that gear, in that phase of grief, and they can't get out of it. Because if you can't get out of the grief, you can't live on like the other person would want you to, and you can't enjoy how much they meant to you because you're stuck in that space. You can't be sad forever. That's right, Fig. You can't be sad forever. Well, you should. Let's rephrase that, Fig. You shouldn't be sad forever. Some people do it, right? Like I know Lauren, I know Josh. They're positive people. They're going to get through things. Lauren's lost a couple of family members this year, both very close. But I know they're good people, and they will be able to get. There will be the expected grieving time. There will be some misty-eyed moments when, like I said, during traditions, things that they're used to having them around for, when some memories come up. But there will be smiles that come along with that. We should cherish the memories we have of those folks should be more valuable to us in their absence. And we should use those as treasures to lean on when we are down. God created many people, not just because this is me theorizing here, right? He wants a community that he loves and that loves each other. And that means appreciating what the people around you. Yeah, we're all sinners. And yeah, we do things all the time where we mess up. But God forgives us. Right? Because we're worth forgiving to him. To him. Right? Now we say we're not worth it. God thinks we are. In spite of things that we do. And if he thinks we're worth it, then that means that we're worth grieving. And as my pastor said, there are instances in scripture where even Christ is mourning. Lazarus is a great example. John the Baptist, when he dies. Jesus wants to be alone for a little bit after John the Baptist dies. Lauren, we try our best to be positive. I have some really great days, and then I have some really hard days where I feel like I can't keep it together. But every day is a fresh new start, and our outlook on life has changed. Life is so incredibly short, and tomorrow is not promised. Live your life to the fullest. Eat the cake. Go on that trip. Spend time with those that you love. That's what my mother's death taught me. The first two sentences, almost word for word verbatim, Lauren, what my mom said last year when her mom passed away. And it's been true. And it's but again, you're taking, what is this? One last lesson from your mom on her way out the door. Right? I'll leave you with an incredibly important life lesson. And to me as a parent, I would love for my kids to that's how I would like to go out. One way for my it's one last very important message for my kids to convey that they get. And you get it. It's a good on ya. Anyway. Does anybody have anything, any tidbits to share? You can give a story. Look, the forum's out here for the platform's here for you guys now. I've said my piece. Do you have something you want to put out there? Something you've learned, something you're afraid of, something you're going through? I can just read it. And try to keep my traps shut because I have the typical male impulse to try to fix everything when I can't. Whether it's with advice or with actions or with service. Can pray. And that is important. And that was a point I tried to make. And Lauren, you said I was thinking about making that I knew was important, Lauren, and you reminded me, and I blew right past it. I'm not crying, Fig. You're not gonna catch me crying. Nick does a great job posting tributes when people super chat in for them. When he makes his toasts, he does a great job putting some things in the words. And people I think people really appreciate it. You see that because they're constantly doing it. And he does it for animals. He's very good. So, there you go. But what Lauren was saying was about preaching or prayer. Let's say, well, about prayer is something that my wife is very good at remembering. Is that praying with people during times of grief? How important that is. Lauren was talking about it. It's one of the most important things to do. It's better even than shutting up. Is the saying. And that's what we did at church. We had elders and deacons go around and pray with folks who were kind of that we knew, and then made it known were hurting, and we prayed with them. We lost my grandpa last year in September. That's when my grandma died. He chose maid service after going blind. Hard thing being there with him. Fig is right. You can't be sad forever. If I was 1/8 as good as toast as Nick, my life would be complete. Are you rolling past it though? Are you trying to live a life more closely to him, to the example he set? I'm sure he would appreciate how much respect you have for him. Porcupine, this time of year brings me joy and solace. My son will be 9 on Thursday. Great joy, but 7 days after his birth, we were driving 6 hours through Wisconsin winter to say goodbye to my grandmother. Yeah, it wasn't long after me and my wife got married that her grandmother died. And this is a lady that she went on many trips with, lived next door to her entire life until she went to college. And then when she came back from college, until me and her got our own place and got married. And there it is. 7 days after, you have death and you have birth. We all have our turns. I'll never forget my gram describing what it was like to hold her son's ashes a decade after my uncle's death. Always thought she was heartless and cruel, and even she ended up having a heart. Look, nothing in your family is more than that parent-kid relationship, whether you're experiencing the loss of a kid like my uncle is, like the other family I was discussing is dealing with, or if you're like Lauren and you've lost a parent. It is close. It is or a sibling. I take that back, a sibling. One of the things I iterate to my kids is nobody, and y'all have heard me talk about this before, is nobody is going to be more closely related to you than your brothers or sisters. It's a little bit different. But it can be just as close and just as hurtful when it happens. Oh, she got to meet her last great grandson, and we all got to say our goodbyes. Amen. Yeah, we've got a couple of, my grandmother, she passed away last year. She got to meet almost all of her great grandchildren. She had 4 kids, lots of grandkids, and some of us have gone on to have multiple kids since. While just trying to live like how he told me with his last words to you. Do it. If they're profound, do it. Do it. Honor your mother and father. It's in the 10 Commandments, right? That includes grandparents. Love your kids. Your friends. Let them know you care. Appreciate brotherhood and sisterhood. Siblinghood. I don't know what you call it. Appreciate them if you have them. And if they're gone, appreciate it even more. I've lived that fear. Haven't lived the loss, but I've lived the fear. Losing parents. Very much losing my brother. Like I said, me and him both in Iraq at the same time. And now with his current occupation is also dangerous. And with my kids, just because you worry about your kids all the time, it's what you're supposed to do. I'm sure that the only balance behind sending your kids sending you to an early grave is your love and desire to see them succeed and be successful. If we're sharing personal stuff, because I loathed my uncle and Graham growing up, lost my father-in-law 3 years ago, and became the only man in my wife's family. That's big. Those are big shoes, by the way. Being the only, not saying whose shadow is you're living, you're kind of walking in, but just the fact that you're the only one there. I'm strong, but when God finally gives us a kid, I'm sure I'll break a little bit. Porcupine. Hell, she was 93, survived the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma. Pretty significant. Which means she also survived the Great Depression, World War II. My grandfather's drunken years, he sobered up eventually. Mine did not. She never learned to drive, loved her family and God. I know so many old women like that who never learned a job or learned to drive. He was 5'6", so the shoes were no, this is Blaine. He was 5'6", the shoes were no problem. The shadow was a little bit bigger, though. It's there. It's there. We all have our stories of grief. We all have our losses. And they're only going to be more as we get older. We're going to go through that. It's weird. It's a numbers game. People start dropping off. It's been pretty close to me this year, but hopefully it's the closest it gets for a while. My other cousin, the only remaining son of my uncle, he's a few months older than me, and we are also very close. Him and the first cousin I lost are the two cousins I'm closest to, and we live in the same state, but he lives a few hours away, so we don't get to see each other as much. But we don't get to see all of the cousins. We all grew up kind of in the Richmond area, and then we kind of all scattered. And we're all in different parts of the state, and some out of the state. We got together, and he told me, he said, we got to stop. We got to stop coming together and meeting like this. We need to have better meetings. We need to meet more often for other reasons. Next time I see him, I'm going to be like, well, maybe if we stop dying off, we could stop meeting like this. So I don't have much else to add. Show's already run a lot longer than I thought it was. Didn't I think I had that much, but well, like I said, listening to you, Lauren, Weeb, Blaine, Porcupine. I think somebody else did something. Weeb and Fig talking about it earlier. Lamau, just stop dying. Yeah. Anyway, guys, this is why I want you guys to be safe when we break for the weekend or during the week too. And one of the things I thought about was, yeah, it's good to spend a Sunday during Advent remembering who's not here this time as we go through it. We're going to be happy for the rest of the time out. All right? We're going to be happy. We're going to be joyful. We're going to welcome this. We're going to welcome the celebration of the baby Jesus arriving on earth to fulfill prophecy and to establish the covenant that we now enjoy to sacrifice, to teach, to be an example. This is a lot longer than the stream where I talked about my friends Minecrafting and told people to reach out and accept help. Yeah. Yeah. I got a eulogy to write. Because I will be eulogizing. Because he was quiet and he was private. But I appreciated that about him. He was also smart and funny if you listen to him. So that's as far as in I'll get it. And on that note, I'm going to end the show. Okay. Everybody, Blaine, Fig, Porcupine. Where is Nico? He was in Discord asking me about this. No Nico tonight. Blaine, Fig, Porcupine. Lauren, tell Josh I said hi. I'll see you guys later. Brian, Alias, and Wild Weed. Normally I say wherever you are, but good to hear from you. All y'all be good. Anybody listening, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing some of your stories. Thanks for sharing some of your difficulties, how you get through. Hey, Josh. Thanks for sharing that. And be safe, all you guys. Everybody take care. And good night. And God bless.